So my message to everyone that has the vision is just do it.
Boom!
Welcome to Motion Matters, where we shine a light on the entrepreneurial journey, sharing real stories of triumph and challenge. Guided by Jamie Tilka, we connect, inspire, and educate. This is Motion Matters.
Hello and welcome to Motion Matters. This is the Entrepreneurial podcast where we talk about the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship. Today, I have a special guest. His name is Ed Leybovich, and we met because we're in a mutual mastermind together. We had some conversations, and I was like, Ed, you need to tell your story, bro. People need to hear this shit. And so I'm super excited to give a fat, warm welcome to Ed. Ed, thanks for being on the show, man.
Jamie, thank you so much for having me.
Love it. Well, listen, Ed, let's kick this off by you taking a few minutes and giving everybody a little bit about your background, where you came from, who are you, and how did you get into the world of entrepreneurship?
You know, my story began actually in another country. So I, like many people in the U.S., I come from an immigrant family. So when I was a young kid, my family immigrated from, I guess you'd call it either Ukraine or Russia. You know what they're fighting over the area. So I'm not really sure where I'm from these days. But I came here as a kid with my family. My parents were in their early 30s. They had two young kids. We didn't speak the language. We really didn't have anything. We were considered political refugees. We came here in the, I guess it was in the early 1980s.
Okay.
And, both my parents are very highly educated. My dad has two master's degrees.
Wow.
But I remember being a young kid. Education was very, very important. He also went to trade school. So, he was actually a pretty important, he was young, but very important man. As some of his friends have told me, much later on in life, your dad was a very, very important man back in the old country. And really, they made the sacrifice and they came to America to seek opportunity. I guess not so much for them, but for their kids. They wanted a better life for their kids, for me, my brother. And, I'm grateful for that because, Jamie, as we talked about before, I love this country. I'm a big patriot because of everything that's given to me.
Mm.
Yeah, it hasn't always been an easy journey. But, I recall being a young kid and coming here, and my dad, who was an executive back in the old country, as I refer to it. And then he came here and he was doing whatever it took.
Mm-hmm.
Put money, right? Put food on the table. Whether it means washing dishes, cleaning floors, working in warehouses, and just doing whatever it takes. And same thing with my mother. From the moment we came here, I never recall my parents being home for too long. They were both always working.
Mm-hmm.
The onus of kind of taking care of my brother always fell on me, and we just always be at home together. And I guess I learned how to be independent from a very, very young age.
Mm.
And I remember being 9 years old and 10 years old. And on weekends, I'd wake up at about 3:30 in the morning so I could deliver newspapers with my dad. Yep. And
keep going.
Yep. And, my dad was actually in a pretty bad car accident a few years before that. So he had some back problems, some knee problems. And the town where we delivered newspapers had a lot of these mansions that were up on hills. And it was a little bit difficult for him to run up those hills and put the papers right at the doorstep where the customers preferred.
Mm.
That's why he asked for my help. And, I was happy to do it. But I remember towards, after about 3.5 hours being a young boy, I'd just be exhausted and I'd start falling asleep in the car, and my dad would finish up delivering those papers. And I remember, the pain he had in his body, but it's something we had to do. And, Jamie, I remember it wasn't even it wasn't even to get that income for delivering the papers that day, but we really worked all year. We worked to get those tips on holidays. That's where we made more money than we probably did in the prior 6 months of delivering the newspapers. Grew up from very, so I was a great role model, right? Very hardworking.
Where were you geographically at this time? Where in the United States?
Sure. We moved to New Jersey. So right outside Manhattan.
I just wanted to, a frame of reference.
Yeah,
Great.
sure thing. Yeah, we lived in New Jersey. Yeah, pretty much grew up here. And I've split my time between New Jersey and New York ever since.
Immigrated to the United States, as we've heard with other people's stories, the struggle is real, right? We're going to do whatever we can to make ends meet. Your parents were probably very much likely looking for a better life for them, for you, for any siblings you may or may not have. And so what transpired from there? Give me where did Ed go post graduating from high school?
Sure. Well, education was of paramount importance to my, to my parents, of course, and to me as well. That was kind of part of the formula of achieving something better, attaining, getting more educated. So I did go to Rutgers University for my undergraduate degree. I worked for a couple of years after undergrad. I was a political science and history major, and I worked for a couple of years, and then I continued my studies. I went to NYU and got my MBA. And, I guess following suit to kind of like my dad, I wound up getting a triple concentration in finance, information systems, and international business.
Okay.
Yeah, checked off a lot of boxes. I figured, probably won't be back in school anytime soon. May as well, get as much education as I can. And and I pretty much worked my whole way through getting my MBA degree. I worked. I started working towards second semester of my first year, and just continued on. And I worked virtually full time my second year as I was pursuing my studies. After finishing my degree, like a lot of folks, I got into corporate finance, specifically sales and trading, as they call it. And I went on to sit on the derivatives desk for an international bank, and kind of started developing my corporate career. Worked in the bank for several years. But I got to tell you, Jamie, I had that kind of like entrepreneurial streak, or entrepreneurial desire already. Mm-hmm. So as I was working my 9 to 5, or actually at the time it was more like a 7 to 7, I started learning about writing business plans, and just became involved in some with some other entrepreneurial groups and folks, and I was a part of several startups. Back in the .com days.
Okay.
Like many folks, I have some stock certificates of like a lot of worthless stock on some. I tried to co-found, but that's kind of where I really developed that that entrepreneurial spirit.
So let me just repackage this so I'm tracking exactly where you're at. So it sounds to me like during the duration of this time when you were working, your 12-hour shifts in the financial industry, that you had some opportunities to potentially dabble within the entrepreneurial space, whether you are the one that actually, forged that particular company, but you were a part of that. And that's kind of what started making you think about the entrepreneurial world and what it could be. Is that correct? That's
exactly right. In fact, I'll tell you a really quick story. During when I was getting my MBA, we had a new venture competition, and I was, the internet was the internet was like pretty new at the time. Not everybody knew what the internet was and all that stuff. And I started coming up with like little ideas. I saw there was a company called Prodigy many, many years ago that was an internet provider, and 1-800-Flowers was advertising on Prodigy. And I thought to myself, well, if a company could advertise flowers, can we send greeting cards? I thought, well, how about greeting cards? Can we send greeting cards online? So I Yeah, I created like a little, for the new venture competition, I created a little company called Custom Cards where you could send little greetings to one another online. I never monetized it, never really did anything with it. But that was kind of when the whole entrepreneurial dream, and the journey really began. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I was helping other
Dude.
folks. Yes, sir.
You know what that makes me think of? I remember sitting in my living room and my brother telling me, man, this is when we had video VCRs, right? Video cassette recorders.
Yeah.
I remember my brother saying, man, why can't they have something where I can control the VCR from my watch? And at that time I was like, come on, you're fucking crazy, bro. He's like, no. Anyway, he sat on that and never did anything. And guess what happened? Lo and behold, I don't know. Let's say it was 5 or 7. I honestly don't recall. Casio comes out with a freaking watch where you can control your VCR from it.
Incredible. Yeah.
So I want to flip that back to yours. Did that happen for you? Did you conceptualize the greeting card business only to later turn around and see somebody else do it and say, son of a, you know what? Why the heck didn't I do that? Did you have that moment?
Jamie, I've had several moments like that. So absolutely. Absolutely.
So what's your message to everybody that has the vision?
So my message to everyone that has the vision is just do it.
Boom.
Best time to start doing something is right now. If you have an idea, write it down, share it. Because, Jamie, most good ideas are found in the graveyard.
Amen. Say it again, Ed.
Most good ideas, Jamie, are found in the graveyard.
Boom. Take that nugget if you're listening to what Ed just said. Keep going, Ed. Sorry.
Yeah, let's say if you have a good idea, best thing to do is speak to people about it. There's no reason. Elon Musk doesn't care about patents. I don't know. I heard him speak about that. He doesn't care about that type of protection, about protection. He says, hey, if it's something great and you want to execute it, you should just go for it. And I feel exactly the same way. And I want to tell you one other little story.
Do it. Send it.
Part of my entrepreneurial journey. So I was in Chinatown, which, was very, very crowded and busy. And this was many, many years ago. I finished my MBA. I was in my 20s at the time. This was still in the 90s. And my a friend of mine had I think they had a kid who was about 3 years old, maybe 4 years old. And they were walking. We were all walking together, and all of a sudden, their son ran ahead of us. And because the streets were so crowded, we couldn't see him. So of course, she starts getting panicky immediately. Starts calling out his name, and we can't see him. It's so crowded. And I thought to myself, and again, this was in the 90s. I thought, well, what if we just pressed a button and a little alarm went on, and we could find them, right? Like you could do with car alarms, etc. And then I actually tried to develop a little idea behind that, and we were using like radio frequencies because before GPS, and I invented a little device called the Gabeep. It's something that goes beep. Yeah, the Gabeep.
So did you pursue it?
I pursued it. So as I mentioned, I was working a pretty long hours, and I was still pretty young, and I had some debt to pay off. So I actually allocated X amount of capital to trying to get the startup off the ground. I found a manufacturer, and we made a whole bunch of these. I think we made like a bunch of prototypes, and ultimately, Jamie, I got to tell you, I ran out of money, and I couldn't pursue it. And fast forward almost 30 years later, 25 years later. And everyone knows about those little Apple AirTags, right? Where you could put them, find things, and it's exactly the same idea. And I completely stopped thinking about this until my middle son, was rummaging through some of our stuff in the basement, and he took out this device, and he said, "Dad, what is this?" And I said, "Buddy, this is the Gabeep. I invented this 25 years ago and never did anything with it, and I still have it." So I'd like to reiterate to you, to everyone, and to myself, when you have a good idea and you feel like it's going to provide value to you, to the world, you just have to let it out and do it.
Yeah. I know that you know this, but for the purpose of everybody else that's listening to this, or somebody that maybe hasn't delved deep into the entrepreneurial world, the one thing that's coming to my mind as I'm listening to your story is the thing that we know is, I would argue, the key ingredient, and that is consistency, right? Now, you said you ran out of money, understandable. I'm sure there's a myriad of other things that we could talk about that specific instance, but the bottom line is you stopped and never continued to pursue it. And that's fine. It's why you're here where you are today, right? Your life is your story, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm thinking that you would agree with me when the story that you're telling people right there is, don't stop. Don't stop. Continue to go, whatever that is, unless it's clearly undeniable that particular thing is not going to work, right? Obviously, at that point. But if you believe in the concept and the vision, you have to pursue it. You have to be all in. You have to be relentless. Would you agree?
I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
Ed, that's a great story, actually, and I appreciate. Thank you for sharing that. I want to use that actually to segue off into. So in my mind, as I'm listening to your story and building this out, we got this young gentleman who immigrated to America. Family worked to put food on the table and provide and seek additional opportunities. You then get educated and you start to dabble into the entrepreneurial space. Let's transition now into the point at which you say to yourself, I am not working W-2 anymore. I am going to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams, whatever that is. What is that moment that happened for you where maybe there was a hybrid moment? Maybe you still maintained your job. I know that happens for several people. Even myself, I was finishing out my active duty service time. But what I'm asking you, if you could tell us about the moment in which your desires and your motivation to pursue a greater depthness of entrepreneurship propelled you in that direction. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely, Jamie. Absolutely. Well, shortly after that experience, I got to tell you, in running out of money and trying to put this, get this company up and running, there's a lot of, certainly a lot of factors that contributed to my not moving forward on this. But about a year after that, right, I don't remember exactly how long, but I kind of started getting into equity trading, so stock trading. Okay, so I'm working my full-time job, and I started learning about the dynamics of equity trading. And I got to tell you, Jamie, I really fell in love with it. I began to read books on it. Again, just became very passionate about it, and really, really wanted to learn about the opportunities that it provides to people. And and I decided that this time, Jamie, I wasn't going to stop. And whether I had money or I didn't have money, so I got to tell you, I left my W-2 job and I went into trading. So, where you eat what you kill. And it took me, I think it was it was a long journey. It took me maybe a little bit longer than some of the other folks, and I struggled to learn how to trade and be consistent. And I wound up borrowing money from several friends so I could pay my rent and just continue to learn. And it took me about a year before I started making a little bit of money just to start paying off some debt and kind of pay for my living expenses. And I'd say maybe another 4 or 5 months after that, maybe 6 months after that, I emerged as one of the top traders in the company.
Wow.
And and became very, very consistent. Again, very consistent with my performance. Never stopped learning, continued to put in the hours, always rolled up my sleeves and just was down in the trenches. And shortly thereafter, I partnered with another gentleman and I launched my own company. And that was an entrepreneurial venture where and I said to myself, having learned from, kind of abandoning that idea that I really believed in, I said, failure is not an option and I'm not going to stop. And I went on to become a good trader, or actually a great trader at the time. And I began to teach other folks how to trade. And I noticed people were listening to what I was saying, and I was educating many, many people. And again, I went off, launched my own company. And Jamie, we grew that company to 65 people, 5 offices.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that kind of put me on the map. That's where I learned how to hire and manage and motivate and kind of put and kind of grew in this this little entrepreneurial venture. It was just me, and it was me and my partner, and then we kind of grew it to a whole company.
Before you get too much further down the road, I want to ask you, what was the time frame from that kickoff into trading till you're sitting at 65 people? Like what space of time? Years?
It was about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Great.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you that for a very specific reason. Here's where I'm going with this. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I feel like this is a pretty strong limb I'm going out on, that during that 2.5 years, there was not one, but multiple times in which you were probably like, what the hell is going on? And you had ran into some real struggles, personal, financial, within the business, the list goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And so can you tell us about one of those times where you really question, is it really worth it? And kind of how you navigated that, because I feel like that's a big piece of what people really struggle with in the world of entrepreneurship. It's hard enough to get in, but for the few people that are willing to take the proverbial leap of faith, they get into an obstacle and they're like, oh, hells no. And then they just swim right back to shore. Can you tell us about that instance for you? What resonates with you on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie. Well, I got to tell you, it wasn't just one instance. There was multiple instances. Absolutely.
Yep.
Multiple. The business. As soon as the business grows, maybe our clearing firm or one of the partners, something happens, or someone tries to. As soon as you come up with a winning trading strategy, right? Other people try to replicate that strategy, and then you see all of a sudden it kind of starts going away. So you lose your advantage, you lose your differentiating factor, if you will, with what you're doing. And yeah, there was a lot of competition, and the markets were they were pretty challenging to trade. And certainly there was money issues and family issues, and there was health issues, not with me, but with the family, that kind of kept me away from the business at times. But I got to tell you, there's just one thing I always kept in mind, and that was, A, failure is not an option. B, by that point, we were already hiring people. So I felt responsible. I didn't have a family at the time, but other folks that worked for me had families. And they were counting on me to put food on the table for their families.
Yeah.
Regardless of what was happening with me, I knew I could not fail the people that believed in me, that came with me, that dedicated their time to my training program, that listened to me, that put faith in me. So I'd say that was probably my greatest driving factor, knowing that if I failed, I think I felt like I'd be okay, but I wouldn't be okay. It wouldn't be okay for me if I failed other people, and hence failure was just not an option. I would not quit until this venture was successful and I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And I always kind of said this, and my partners would remember me saying this. I always wanted to help other people put food on their tables. And that was a really big driver for me, Jamie.
I think for many entrepreneurs, there is a point somewhere along the journey where that becomes, it becomes a very deep-rooted realization of the fact that these people, in a driving factor, as you very well articulated. I'm wondering, though, to go back to my question, can you recall, though, any instance in which shit was falling apart? Again, I'm talking about you can just tell me if you think, or if you recall, that your business basically had little to no trials, but my guess is that's probably highly unlikely. I don't know if there was a day where like all the equipment went to hell in a handbasket and all of a sudden you had to come up with tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to replenish that. Did you lose some workforce? Did funding not come through? Did somebody, possibly yourself or anybody else, have a personal relationship that caused massive turmoil? Did you have a falling out with the partners? I'm looking for one of those instances for you to share where, because I'll tell you, in my 5 years of doing the real estate stuff, particularly in the first 2 to 3, I would be lying if I didn't tell people there was multiple times where I seriously considered walking away because I'm like, this shit is hard and it's destroying me and it's destroying my family. Like, is it really worth it? Is there a particular thing that pops up right in the forefront of your mind that you recall, like during, and it doesn't even have to be with that company per se, just anything along your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jamie, absolutely. So let me do this. Let me just fast forward a little bit. So while I had the trading firm, and it's a good segue kind of into real estate. While I had the trading firm, right? So like you and like many folks, I started dabbling in real estate, and I started buying rental properties, and I started to build up my portfolio. And I learned about passive income, et cetera, and I really wanted to get into it. And again, I wanted to hedge myself. Actually, a few years into into launching this company, I wound up getting married. I had kids, so I was no longer kind of a single person just taking care of myself. I had a family to take care of, so I started thinking about passive income, investing, diversifying, investing in other things. And I partnered with a gentleman whom someone introduced me to him, and we began to buy rental properties together. And exactly what you're talking about actually happened to us, where we had a pretty small portfolio at the time, and I was raising money. I was contributing money into the company, and he was working very, very hard. It was like you fly, I buy kind of thing where he was working hard. But I remember there was one occasion, I'd say, we took on a very, very large renovation project. It was way beyond anything either of us handled before, and it was a very, very large project. And the project started to go south, and it began to go south very, very quickly. And it didn't just drain some of our money, it drained all of our money. We had contractors that were coming in, taking money from us and disappearing, and not just one, but multiple contractors. And as I was mentioning, I had the company, I was distracted, I had a family. My partner had a lot of things going on as well, some family things, and no one was really minding the store the way they should have been.
Yes.
Sure enough, we looked, and the loss was so great, we did not have, it would have taken us a long, long time to just kind of pay them. We ran up a lot of bills. And not only did we run up all these bills and all these expenses, but the property was nowhere near being done. And it caused a huge, huge problem. The folks that were working for us for the real estate company at the time left because we could no longer afford to pay them. And it was a very, very, it was almost, it could have been devastating if we let it devastate us.
Well, how did you, but here's what everybody's waiting on, pins and needles, Ed. You got to tell us. How did it turn out? How did you navigate that? How did you pull it off? Because you're still here today. You're not in jail. Nobody killed you. Like, how did you pull the shit off?
Yeah, Jamie, I'll tell you. So again, resilience and failure not an option. So what really wound up
happening? Go deeper, Ed. Go deeper though. Like, get into the deals. Okay, so let me recap this, right? So you took on a real estate. I by the way, this really resonates with me, right? My first project, right out of the gate, 12 units, complete down to the stud, guts in every facet. I really did land development, minus the fact that there were some bricks on the outside of these structures, but that's neither here nor there. So you get into a heavily value add proposition with nobody really monitoring it, no true project management, which also I suffered from as well. That's a separate story. And then you find out that you're no money left in the bank, massive shit left to do, all of your staff walk up. How did you turn it around, or did you just walk away? Like, what happened?
I got to tell you this, and this is exactly what happened. So I decided to take, I took about a week off from work, from my company. And I came down to where the project was. Mm-hmm. And I met my partner right in front of the house. And I was actually still wearing a suit at the time. took my jacket off, took my tie off, rolled my sleeves up, put put some tools around my shoulder, put the tool belt on, and went to work myself. Mm. That's exactly what I did. And when my partner saw that, when he saw me climbing on top of this building in my shoes, in my suit, to do the work myself, something, it triggered something in him. And that was a very pivotal moment in our relationship as well.
Wow.
When he saw me do that, he thought to himself, wow, here you are, this MBA, you have this trading firm and all this stuff, and you're right there doing the work yourself. And right there, and then again, everything shifted. And he did exactly the same thing, because before that, he was also kind of the manager. So we were two managers, right? Trying to manage things and, but what we really had to do is we got down in the trenches. And when we did that, all of a sudden we called another contractor, and he came and he saw that we were working, and we bartered a deal where, hey, we can't pay you now, but we'll give you a piece of the deal if you help us work on it. And we invited him to help work with us. And then we called a roofer and we said, hey, we can't pay you, but you could have a piece of this it's a multifamily, exactly like your situation, Jamie. And and that's exactly what we did. And from that process, we actually assembled a little team, and it's 15 years later, I'm still working with that team now. Some of those same folks.
Listen to that, man. Listen to that. That's one of the things that we always talk about. And by we, I mean the people that have navigated the shittiest of storms, right? And didn't just say, F it, I'm going to take off my life preserver and drown here in the middle of the ocean. No. And so you did exactly what you needed to do. And out of that, not only were you able to pull it off, but on top of that, you built relationship. How long ago was this?
Boy, this is probably, this got over 15 years ago at this point.
15 years ago, people. 15 years ago. And he's still working with some of these people today.
Yep.
Why? Because when you go through really shitty circumstances, it builds relationships and bonds that are just unbreakable. Because you know why? You sucked when I sucked. And that right there is a powerful message today. Super powerful message. Who's helping you row? Who's helping you row? Or is everybody in that famous Phil Collins song sitting on the shoreline, watching you drown, and you're saying, who's going to lend a hand? And they're just like, not me. I'm tired. I'm watching Netflix. I got to go get some ice cream. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry that I went off on that little soapbox tangent there, Ed, but I appreciate, that's what I wanted you to share. And I really am grateful that you did share that, because that's what I want people to understand, is that as I was listening to you tell me about the actions that you took, one word came to my mind, a single word. And that word was resourcefulness, right? It wasn't about like, there's no way, there is a way. Let's think about this. How are we going to do that? Now, you did it with physical labor initially, but the next thing that you said that I think was so awesome in that story that you told is that you bartered. Mm-hmm. You bartered. I can't pay you 5 G's today, but I'll give you a slice. You want some bread? Are you hungry? This shit's going to taste good at the end. You know what I mean? That's right. And that dude was like, you know what? I like pumpernickel bread. Let's do this thing. And he did it. And then so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to steal this because it's about you, but I think that's such a big piece of what it is that I'm trying to help share through your story and everybody else's stories is that no one that I've met yet has said to me, it was easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I had no stress. I was drinking mojitos on the beach. I'm chilling like 10 villains. It's peace and chicken grease. I got nothing else going on. Bullshit. So sharing those raw stories and sitting there admitting in this forum, I think that's amazing, Ed. Thank you. I really thank you for sharing that.
No, appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share. I really haven't spoken about that story to many people, Jamie. People don't even know how the whole business started, and then, and we went on with that core team, with my partner and that core team. I mean, we went on to buy, almost, 100 houses in the area, and thank you.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jamie. And it was really, and the work we were doing there, again, it was a little bit of a distressed area. Actually, not a little bit. It was a lot of a distressed area. And many of the houses that we were rebuilding and renovating and really rebuilding at the time were being used for kind of like, nefarious purposes, if you will, by folks that have been there. And renovating them, cleaning them up. And, we provided, good, safe, warm housing, to families that didn't have that housing, where they were.
Yeah.
We never, we were charging like below market rents for a very, very long time, specifically because like our business model is, we want a relationship with our tenant. And that was kind of our mantra for many, many years, and it still remains our mantra. I still have some of the same tenants that I had when I started started buying properties 20 years ago. I still have some of the same tenants that live in the same houses. And I think it's kind of a testament to the product that we put out to the marketplace, and the loyalty that we created with some of our tenants. And, we always tried to do the right thing. And, by doing these renovations one at a time, we were rebuilding the city one house at a time. I got to tell you, Jamie, we turned around entire streets, and, we cleaned up playgrounds and,
Great feeling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All the kids knew who I was. I drive into town. A lot of the kids kind of come out. They say hi to me. and I got to tell you, Jamie, several, I don't know what the number is, but probably more than 5 of my tenants' children are now in real estate in the same exact area so now they're competing with me for the same product, and they learned how to do, what they do from me, because
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would openly talk about what I was doing. I would take, kids would see that I'd come into a house that was falling apart, and we'd renovate it and make it a nice house. We put a nice family in there, and we just did that over and over and over. And then I got involved. I got more involved in the city with the soup kitchen. Got a little bit more involved with the city. It started taking over some abandoned properties, renovating those. I created a little brand for myself, and sometimes the city would just call me and say, "Hey, Ed, we have a property," and And we had a little bit of a process I'd have to go through to acquire these properties, but essentially they would just give them to me, and
wow,
I made them. Yeah, it was really incredible.
Look at that, man! I just keep having this flashback of what would have happened. Where would you be had you not taken those actions? That's the differentiator, right? And I'm sorry, but like I really think that this is a very meaningful. I'm not sorry, right? I don't know why I'm being apologetic. I guess because I don't want to belabor the point, but at this point, I feel like it's a point that needs to be belabored, right? And that is that even listening to you talk about that, not sharing it, and then the concerns. I think that there's a lot of people that have gone through it that hesitate to share some of the grittier, raw nastiness of what entrepreneurship really means because, right, it's embarrassing. But here's the thing that I think that we need to change our mindset on is that not thinking about, I did this thing wrong, but I dug myself out of this hole. And that is huge, because I would argue that many people would just sit in the hole and die, right? And that's the thing that I'm hoping videos and your story like this will resonate with people, is to say to themselves, are my circumstances that bad? And even if they are really, really bad, what am I going to do to change these circumstances? Because it's solvable. It's not solvable. And so super kudos to you and all of the stuff that you talked about, the relationships with the city, the relationships with the tenant, the impact on the community, the impact on the kids. Like, holy crap, had Ed not done that, like, I like to call those in my military vernacular, the second and third order effects, right? That ripple, if you will, across the pond. Man, that would have been yeah, that's awesome, dude. It's like really, really, really good. Listen, I want to make sure that I have enough time. Can we transition quickly?
Sure thing.
I want to transition, and I want to give you a little bit of time to talk about where you're at today, man. Can you give us a little bit of insight, like what's Ed doing? What businesses are you running? What space are you in? Can you talk a little bit about where you're at today in this entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely, JB. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I got to tell you, so that experience and the fact that I kept going and didn't throw in the towel allowed me to build a residential portfolio. As I mentioned, I've also helped other folks build their residential portfolios. I now have several partners with whom I purchase residential properties in that area and other areas. So I've expanded my business. My core competency is raising private capital and equity for deals. So when folks say, hey, I want to get into the business, tell me how you did it, I give them the blueprint. And I'm right there to help them. If they need my assistance, I can help them with the financing, the funding, again, the whole business model, how to do it. But since then, of course, I've completely left the W-2. I worked for for the company I was talking about, the trading company, and then I had another, a couple other jobs. But then I've over 10 years ago, I completely transitioned into real estate full time. So I took my residential experience and I've grown it into multifamily. I've invested as a limited partner in, I'm probably invested in about 800 units right now. Also, I'm a general partner in multiple multifamily deals. And most recently, probably in the last year or so, we've started investing into self-storage. So I'm both a limited partner and a general partner in multiple self-storage deals. And over the last 6 months or so, we struck a very, very interesting partnership with a developer that's building these large premium storage garages, and these are condos. So very, very different business model. So here I am in real estate, but I get to put my entrepreneurial hat on because the market in which I'm working is nascent. It's new. It's emerging. And I'm right there at the forefront of it. We're in the first inning of this incredible large garage storage condo market. And I'm right there. And that's really what I'm living and breathing these days, Jamie. I'm raising money, private capital and equity for developments where we're building these larger storage garages where people could put their RVs and boats and cars, and also folks could use it as like flex warehouse space, business inventory. So my journey kind of, went from, little residential places to building these big facilities. Yeah, so it's been, and that's kind of where I find myself right now. So
that's awesome. Just listening to you, I'm all jazzed up for it, man. Like I know you had actually mentioned it to me before, but we hadn't really gotten to speak about it in any type of depthness. So even just hearing your presentation right now, like I'm definitely interested. You speak it into existence. I'm gonna forecast that I'm gonna be a partner with you on one of these projects. How about that?
Yeah, it'll be. Yeah, I'd love that, Jamie. I'd certainly welcome, because I also invest in the projects in which we're working. So I invest in these projects as well. I really believe in them, and I absolutely see the utility, and I see I see the usage. And again, I think we're only in the first inning of this growing market. So once again, I get to be in real estate, which is what I love, and I get to wear my entrepreneurial hat because here I am working on things like, pricing models and, figuring out marketing strategies and understanding exactly who our consumers are because it's so, your target market is so broad. So being, how do you focus, your advertising, your marketing strategy to get the right avatar? It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. Jamie, I'm a lifelong learner, and it's given me an opportunity to just continue to learn. And and it's challenging at times, right? It's very, very challenging, as you can imagine, because again, it's a new market, right? They've kind of got into, but it's very, very interesting to me.
I love it, Ed. It sounds interesting, and I'm definitely interested in continuing the conversation with you post podcast, specifically, these multifaceted storage units. That's the best thing I can think of, but those seem really, really cool. And I love the fact that, you're at the stage that you are right now, right? It's a true testament to the power of perseverance. So congratulations on all the success, man. That's a phenomenal story.
Appreciate it, Jamie. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited about the future, actually. And I love talking about it. I host regular webinars where I just educate on the condo market. We don't even talk about the specific deals. We just talk about the market and kind of our vision for what the market's going to look like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. It's very interesting.
Yeah, actually, you just set me up perfectly. So thank you for that. I want to afford you the opportunity before we step away from this. Can you talk and tell people how to best get a hold of you? Which social media platforms on you? Like, how can somebody connect with you if they want to learn more about how do I partner with Ed, or I want to learn about what Ed's doing? Maybe I need some coaching, some mentorship. I mean, again, I'm not sure the full facet of what it is that you're doing, but how do people get in touch with Ed?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. But I'd say the best way to get in touch with me is you just email me, Edward at Nextivest, NEXTAVEST, Edward at Nextivest.com. Or I'm on pretty much all of the social platforms except for TikTok. I'm not on TikTok.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for sharing your information. And if anybody would like to get in touch with Ed, he just gave you a myriad of different ways in which you can. So I'd encourage you to reach out to him. Again, we're in the same mastermind. And so I know we're both in and around like-minded individuals that are always looking on succeeding and moving forward. Ed, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. I hope this was enjoyable for you. And I also really, really hope that somebody listening to this is like, that's amazing. Let's go. So thank you, Ed.
Jamie, thank you so much for having me. It's very, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
appreciate that.
Incredible to be here. I'm really appreciative of you having me on, Jamie, and I'm really looking forward to continuing our conversations and further developing our relationship. So thank you for that, Jamie.
Me too. All right, brother. Well, you have a fantastic week, and I will see you soon. See you later, Ed.
Take care, Jamie.